Have you ever heard of Marilyn Monroe? Maybe how she had an affair with former U.S. President John F. Kennedy? She was the biggest sex symbol in the mid-1900s and is still popular today. For those of you who have, or even have not, in a matter of minutes, you're going to learn about Marilyn and her life story. After my intense research about Marilyn Monroe, I know quite a few things that I did not know before. Marilyn was alone most of her childhood. She grew up into a worldwide sex symbol whose death was a speculation between a suicide and a murder. I'm going to now tell you about Monroe's childhood and early life. The blonde bombshell, Marilyn Monroe, overcame a challenging childhood to become one of the most well-known sex symbols in the world. According to Biography.com, Marilyn Monroe, on June 1, 1926, was born in Los Angeles, California. She never knew her father, and her mother abandoned her in her early childhood years. Much of Monroe's childhood was spent in an orphanage and multiple foster homes. Grace and Doc Goddard, family friends of Marilyn's, took Marilyn into their home in 1937. The Goddards were paid $25 a week, but when Doc's job was transferred, they could not afford to bring her along. According to the article on Marilyn Monroe at Biography.com, once they left her, she returned to foster homes. She admits later that she was sexually harassed there. When she was only 16, Marilyn dropped out of high school and got married to Jimmy Daughtry on June 19, 1942. Jimmy left her to serve for the country, and while she was working at a factory in Burbank, California, a photographer discovered her there. Because of this photographer, she became a successful model. This made her want to change her name to Marilyn Monroe. It would help her fit the model look. Although she had a hard childhood, Marilyn had a life that was more than she could have ever imagined. Monroe's life was full of fame and success. She and Daughtry divorced, and she signed her very first movie contract. From the Marilyn Monroe article at Biography.com, I read that The Asphalt Jungle was the name of her first film. Around the time this first movie was completed is when she changed the look. She finished the change of her look by dyeing her hair blonde. She would now be known as the blonde bombshell we know her as today. She starred in the film Niagara a few years later. In this film, she played a young married woman who was out to get her husband killed. Later, she began to emerge as a sex symbol and starred in the musical comedy Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, read at Biography.com. Also, according to Biography.com, as this movie succeeded, she played a role in many more popular films such as How to Marry a Millionaire and There Is No Business Like Show Business. Monroe was very insecure when it came to her acting abilities. She has pre-performance anxiety that made her ill and repeatedly late for her films. Growing tired of her dumb blonde roles, she moved to New York City to study acting. She played in only one dramatic film and then moved back to the comedic roles she was familiar with. Monroe's last completed film was The Misfits in 1961. Not only was her life full of drama, but also her death. Marilyn died of drug overdose on August 5, 1962. At the time of Marilyn's death, there were rumors that she was involved with John F. Kennedy. She and Kennedy met at one of the many large parties that they frequently attended. On Kennedy's birthday in late May, she publicly announced her affection for Kennedy by performing the song Happy Birthday to him in a large group of others. Once this event occurred, the rumors about them spread vigorously, and Marilyn was forced to stop all contact with the Kennedy brothers, said Rachel Bell. Marilyn was very depressed around this time, according to the Rachel Bell article at CrimeLibrary.com. Quite frequently, she accidentally overdosed on sleeping pills and had to be revived. She was found dead with an empty bottle of sleeping pills next to her bed. Some people believed her death to be a suicide attempt, while some believed it was a murder. Some say that she simply knew too much. Like Monroe's luxurious life, her casket was just the same. The article about Marilyn Monroe at Biography.com said, probably the most expensive casket that you can buy, made of solid bronze and lined with champagne-colored silk. Out of the few possessions that Marilyn had was an autographed photo of Einstein that read, "To Marilyn with respect, love, and thanks." All of Monroe's hard work paid off, and her films grossed more than $200 million. Still remembered today, artists imitate her and her styles. Overall, I think that Marilyn had a life that, in my opinion, she wouldn't trade for anything else. Now you know all about Marilyn's life, who she was before she was famous, while she was famous, and her spectacle of a death. Haven't you ever wondered what artists like Madonna or Christina Aguilera get so much of their looks? A famous quote from Monroe I read on IMDb.com reads, "I knew I belonged to the public and to the world, not because I was talented or even beautiful, but because I have never belonged to anything or anyone else."